Welcome to the EnsoReal Paradigm Shifters podcast. This show is for and about the entrepreneurs who work to improve and expand our human well-being by bringing cutting-edge technologies and ideas to life. We are Marie and Magnus Dahlgren, your hosts. This time on Paradigm Shifters, we talk to Roger Brooks. Roger is the founder and host of EnsoReal, a weekly broadcast where he explores the stories of people from all walks of life. And now, here's our conversation with Roger Brooks.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
All right.
Yeah, fine.
I love your flag.
Yes, we were inspired by unknown forces.
It's great. I love it. Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Yes. Roger, and we have heard a lot of good things about you. And I'm just wondering, what's the best way to introduce yourself to our listeners? How would you introduce yourself?
Well, I am, as you mentioned, founder and host of EnsoReal, which is a weekly broadcast that we put out every Sunday on our website and on our YouTube channel, as well as iTunes for audio. And our tagline at EnsoReal is "Everyone has a story." So my whole reason for wanting to do a podcast and for coming up with the name and tagline was to give the average person a voice, to allow them to express themselves to the world, because there's so many wonderful, smart people in every local area around the world.
Yes.
That I wanted to try to find a way and a platform to be able to allow those people to shine. And, we're doing that through our weekly show, which we have a featured guest every week. But we're also doing some other things, which you're a part of with our live tribe, that I'd love to inform you about as well.
Yes, that's great. And what is your why? What is your reason why you decided to do this?
I've always been, I guess, a proponent of the average person, of the underdog, of the person that doesn't have a voice. So ever since I was a child, I can remember growing up in, a Slovak neighborhood where, the elders were doing their gardens, and, it was a very interactive community. And I was always fascinated with people's stories. Where did they come from? Where did they grow up? What were their lives like? Here in America, I think, for the most part, people have it pretty good. Of course, there's a lot of poverty and circumstance that some people can't avoid. But we are in a country where if you have an idea and if you have the will to make something happen, that, a lot of people have realized their dreams here. So going back to your question, I've just always been fascinated with people in general and their story. What is the story behind their face? What makes them who they are? And I've always wanted to share those stories.
Yes.
A question for you: what interests you, or what brings a person to your interest or catches your attention?
Well, honestly, I try to find value in each person.
Okay.
I think too many times, and I'm guilty of this as well, and I'm trying to get better as an individual to not do this. But if you think about it, if we walk down a busy street, we're passing dozens of people, hundreds of people, and very rarely do we even make eye contact, let alone be courteous or say hello, or all the little things, because people are so caught up in themselves and their own world that a lot of that has been lost. So I think it's time that, and now we have, with our technology, we have ways to really connect with people and go deeper than we normally have in the past, and learning more about them and allowing them to share their story. So that's what American Real is all about, is again, giving people a voice and letting them share their story.
Okay.
So if I would ask you, what is your passion? What you would answer?
My passion is to raise global consciousness, really.
Raise global consciousness. And why it's so important, again?
Well, again, people are caught up, I think, in not being present, and not really seeing the value of living day to day. People get stuck in ruts. We get complacent in our jobs and in family, and just going through the motions, where if we become more present, then there's opportunity for advancement. So I think the more that we could raise that global consciousness of people being present and being more aware, and not being in a meeting and looking at your cell phone, or being distracted, or when you're having a dinner with your family, you're actually speaking to your kids.
Yes, be present.
Yeah, just being present. So again, American Real is a platform to give people the opportunity to learn if they need to learn, to share whatever they need to share, and to listen to others and learn from their life stories, where whether they're talking about their career or an event that may have happened in their life, where it may touch them and help them advance, in their own regard.
That's interesting. So it's all about connecting people, empowering them, and also it's about raising the consciousness. And when you're doing all these things, and you're doing these things currently very successfully, I would say, whom do you become?
Whom do I become?
Yes, for yourself, first of all.
Yeah, look, honestly, the way I look at it is I'm a conduit. I'm the connector. I'm the one that can make it happen. But American Real is much more than me. I'm the least of it, honestly. It's about giving to the world. So whether I put up a testimonial of someone who's in one of our groups and they're sharing their experience, or whether I'm putting up an episode, a full hour or 2 hour episode of a featured guest, really it's me sharing that conversation with the viewers and the listeners so they could benefit from it. So what am I? I am, I consider myself, a leader, and I want to put out, incredible content that others can benefit from, but it's definitely more than me. It's more about getting that message out to the general public.
That's great. That sounds very great. And I would ask you also, when did you make this decision to create American Real? Because I guess there was a history before this decision. So could you please share a little bit with us?
Sure. And actually, I have it right here. Back about 10 years ago, I wrote a book called Faces. And the whole idea behind Faces was to share people's stories. And this was before the internet, and social media. So what I would do is I would focus on a guest and put their picture in there, and then a little bio, a little bit about their life story. And I've always had this idea of again, wanting to share people's stories. And as I began to watch podcasts, I stumbled, a friend actually turned me on to London Real, which was founded and hosted by Brian Rose. Yeah. And it became, something that I was very fascinated with, because I saw him interviewing people and sharing their story. And I just looked at it and said, I want to do this. That's something I want to do. I want to be able to do the same. He's interviewing one person a week. Why can't I do the same thing?
Yeah.
So I started doing some research, and actually a bunch of friends got together, and this was one of the ideas that came out of it, was doing a podcast, but I took it very serious. I just knew, I said, I've been kind of working my entire life for this. Everything I've done up until this moment, I feel I prepared myself for this. And so I started studying it, researching it, and lo and behold, weeks before I was getting ready to do my first episode, I received an email from Brian Rose. And it came from his general email box, but it basically said, interested in becoming a podcaster. And it was like magic. I said, wow, the timing of this is incredible. So I looked into it more, and he was offering a course called Broadcast Yourself.
Oh, interesting.
And I said, how could I not take this? I could learn from the person that I was, aspiring to be.
Yeah.
And, so let me do this. So I jumped right in, and I took the course.
Yeah.
And I took it very, very serious. If it was 5 or 10 years ago, I don't think I would have been ready, because there's, as you're taking the course, it's a lot of work, and you have to be really committed to wanting to do this, as a career or, as a very successful hobby or whatever it may be. So I went all in, and I worked my full-time job, and I worked the coursework. And at some point, I asked for permission for using the EnsoReal brand. And he said, Brian said, typically he doesn't allow, full countries in the name, but he appreciated what I was doing, and he allowed me to do EnsoReal.
Great. Yeah. Sounds like a destiny.
Well, it certainly feels that way. And looking back now, we're in episode 33, I believe. So, still learning. There's still a lot. Every week I'm learning, but there's also progress. So, when you make a mistake, you learn from that mistake and you make it better, and then you go from there. So, absolutely, it feels like destiny, but at the same time, it's a lot of hard work, but I really enjoy it.
That's great. Good.
Okay. With Broadcast Yourself, Brian Rose recommends that you do like a microniche. Now, EnsoReal seems to me to be 335 million stories, which is not micro by any stretch. So did you stray away from the microniche, or have you microniched it? How do you reconcile the recommendation with what you're doing? Or maybe I just have it backwards.
No. I think you're right on. And, for starters, yes, microniche is extremely important in podcasting. I'm actually an instructor now for London Real for this course. And that's something, that's very, very important, is to start with, a smaller audience and then grow from there, because it's very difficult to do the reverse. So, look, the reality is, in full transparency, I struggled with it because I already had a base of, 100 or more people that I've worked with over the years, put in my books, and whatnot, that came from all walks of life. So it was a struggle for me, but I already had somewhat of an audience, and that made it easier. So Brian's, recommendation was get your micro niche down as small as you can, which, I did, as far as how I contacted my viewers. So I really promoted heavily in my local area. My guests were from the local area. So really building a strong network of people locally first, and then, out to, grow that out to the state and then the country. And now here we are, about 9 months later, and we have a, fairly small, but we have a global market now. but to your point, if I didn't start out with that micro niche of local, I don't think there's any way I could have grown to where we are. And there's still tremendous growth opportunity that remains.
Sure.
I have a question too. You said previously that you have a feeling that you were preparing and searching all your life to get to the point where you're currently. So my question is about how did you know that you navigate and you search in the right direction? What is this navigation system, I guess, inside yourself? Could you tell a little bit more to our listeners? Because our podcast about people's, as you said, stories about their businesses, but also about their blueprints, how they achieved what they did inside themselves, how they were processing the information to get to this point.
Great question. So look, and I actually get emotional thinking about it, because when, in life, I've had very few times in my 48 years, almost 49, where I felt really, really strong about something, so whether it was, choosing and marrying my wife, I knew that was the right decision.
Yeah.
Having our children, that was, an immense, achievement. Aside from that, yes, I've had a really good, I've been blessed with my business career and worked really hard at it. Mm-hmm. But when I put my mind to doing this, it was something that took me to a whole new level that I never thought or experienced before. And again, I was working full time and still work full time in order to achieve my goals. So what did it mean? It meant sacrificing everything. I sacrificed every ounce of time. I sacrificed, meals. I sacrificed events because I knew without that sacrifice, it couldn't happen.
Yeah,
so when I say I went all in and I put my heart and soul into this, I mean it. And I could honestly say, again, I haven't done that too much in my life. So internally, in my heart and in my mind, I just, nothing else mattered. And my wife was on board. That was crucial, she said, do whatever you have to do. And I went into it with the mindset that this is going to be my life, and when I jumped in, I said, I'm going to take it from where it is, and I'm going to build it into the biggest media brand that I can. And that's how I'm treating it. It's very, very important to me.
And you do this very successfully for such a short period of time. What you achieve, it's amazing already.
Well, thank you. But at the same time, it's being smart and tapping into technology and tapping into resources and asking for help when you need it. Yeah. I have volunteers that help me because they want to be part of it. Yeah. And I think when you're passionate about something, that shines through. Oh, yeah. And others want to come along, with that experience. And I'm one that I want to lend whatever I could offer to those that are willing to help me, to reciprocate. So I think that's how you build a successful business. We are now taking American Real to the next level in that we will be moving our studio soon to a new building, which is a business incubator in our local area, where we'll have many resources available to us. And we now have this American Real Live Tribe, which is just, something that I couldn't even imagined that would be so successful as it is, and such a big part of our growth. And, you know, I'm really excited about that opportunity.
I think that people just feel that you're sincere, and your heart and your kindness. That's why they enjoy to be in this tribe. So thank you very much. I'm talking now as a part of this tribe. So thank you.
No, thank you. And we love having you part of it.
My question would be, do you think that's part of the success, is that it is genuine and it is real, and it's not reality TV, or it's not shock TV, or it's not scripted necessarily? I mean, okay, it's a little bit scripted with some questions that narrow down your focus, but could you elaborate on the reason for the success?
Sure. And are you speaking of the podcast itself or American Real in general?
Either way, if you want to talk to both, that's fine.
Yeah. So for sure. I mean, the real is in the name. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, is I want to allow people to show their authentic self, you know, the most realness of that. And I think the conversational style that we put out there, and getting, giving the guest a comfortable setting to share their story. I think that's all part of it. A lot of thought goes into that. And, you know, every little thing that's at the set and is part of the set that plays into it. And then, yeah. And I think just as a host, being authentic yourself, and, not feeling that you're any better than anyone. You know, everyone is on the same playing field in life. Yes, we have our celebrities, we have our athletes, we have our professionals, but at the end of the day, people are people. And, you know, one of the things that I think the American Real platform does is it allows people to express themselves in such a way where you could get to their core, you know, of being real. And you could only do that really in a long form conversation. It's very difficult to do that on 60 Minutes, where, you know, there's a 15-minute segment and you only may see that person talk for, 6 or 7 minutes. Mm-hmm. So this long version format allows people to really express themselves and come into their own and expand on a thought or an idea or something that they've done or achieved that could really resonate with the audience.
Okay.
Now, as far as the live tribe is concerned, which for people that do not know, it's a private Facebook group that's called American Real Live Tribe 21, and it's a 21-day challenge to post a 60-second live video each day. And it sounds simple, right? I could go live for 60 seconds each day, no problem. But as Marie knows, it's not that easy to make that commitment. Yes, the first few days, you're enthusiastic about it. You put your video up, but there's a natural phenomenon that occurs. And what happens is you're first enthusiastic. Well, first there's fear. There's fear to actually do it. But once you get over the fear and you post your first video, there's enthusiasm. Then after a few days or a week, it kind of plateaus, right? And you're on this plane and it's just steady. But at some point, there's what we call the dip, where you just kind of crash and you say, why am I doing this? What am I going to talk about today? What is the purpose?
Yeah.
And there's right. And then, but there's a lot of people that have a hard time getting out of that dip. So they quit and they don't show up again. And that's the time, and that's what we're trying to do to educate people. That's the time where you have to do it most, because not only does it help you get out of that dip for this 21-day challenge, those are the times in life where we see when we have the hardest times in life. If you go into that dip, a lot of people stay in that funk, and it's hard to get out of. So just this little training of, if you could get out of that dip and go and do that live video that day, then what happens is what we call the jump. So you're going to jump even higher out of that initial enthusiasm, where you're going to take your live videos to a whole new level. And it's, you know, it takes time. It takes 3 full cycles scientifically to form a new habit. So we're giving people a platform actually to become better people. That's what it's all about, to become better people, to become more present, to be more accountable, to be more committed, to reflect on yourself and what you've done over your 21 days or 42 days, you know, of these cycles. And then at the end of it, the whole idea is so you could become more transparent. Because when we're transparent, we are authentic and we are real.
That's good. Hold
Yes, yes, sure.
on. While you're talking about this and the storytelling, it occurs to me that this is almost like a reaction to the soundbite culture or the 140 character culture, where you try to pack everything into the shortest bite possible. And what we've lacked for a long time is this long storytelling, like what you're talking about. Would you agree with that, or have you thought about that aspect of it?
A little bit, yes, I have, and yes, because I've received a lot of feedback from people saying that the episodes are too long, you know, that no one's going to listen to them. But again, I think, you know, I don't believe that. I think, yes, there's a certain group of people that will feel that they're too long and that will not want to listen, or may only listen to 2 minutes of an hour-and-a-half episode. But there are other people that will absolutely listen to it, and we get that feedback as well. So yes, in this world that we're living in today, everything is information and content being thrown at us, you know, 24/7. It's very difficult to fit in there. So, you know, my whole premise is for American Real is we have our niche. We will find those people, those true fans that really can benefit from our show. But more than that, more than our show, it's about touching the masses with these live videos, where I think we're going to have the biggest impact, and we are already. We're forming communities around the world that people are connecting and you know, communicating. And with all this text and everything else, this is a fresh breath of air where people could actually talk and express themselves and communicate live, you know, and send that out to the world. So yes, I believe that we are reshaping in our own small way social media the way it should be, and that is actually communicating through voice, through story, you know, and through being present.
Okay.
So I guess that's your paradigm shift, to modify, to change the nowadays media.
Yes, absolutely. And look, the fact of the matter is, everyone's not going to participate.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of people that are turned off by it, but I know in my heart of hearts that there will be a good majority of people that will want to participate and will benefit from it, and those are the people that we're going to focus our time and attention on.
Yeah, that's great. And Roger, I know that everybody in his or her life had the moments of downfalls and failures. And the fact how we react on these circumstances of our failures defines who we are. So I would like to ask you about your biggest failure in your life, and what have you learned from this experience?
Yeah, I would say the biggest failure I've had was actually a business transaction, where I was building a business for several years, working really hard to grow that business. And, you know, out came an opportunity where someone contacted us to do kind of a partnership or a joint venture.
Yeah.
And on the surface, it looked too good to be true. They were bringing a lot to the table, including, some dollars, which always piques your interest, especially when you're a startup.
Yeah.
And, I vetted the opportunity out with some confidence, and we went forward with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned out to be a disaster. And not only that, we feel that we were defrauded, and the people basically ran away, and we couldn't even find them anymore. And it ruined, it closed the business down. So it was very, very difficult for me personally. Again, when you put your heart and soul into something, and then you make a bad decision that in turn, changes the course of your life. It was a big life lesson that when you go through an experience like that and it changes the course of your life, just try to turn it into a positive, and you have to restart and learn from the mistakes and obviously don't make them again. And just was able to recover eventually, but it was certainly the biggest challenge of my life.
Yes. And what kind of decision did you make in the middle of this experience?
The decision was that, we quickly found out that these people were not honoring their word, and we were left holding, the bag, so to speak. So we just had to cut our losses as much as we could and do what we could for our customers. But in the end, unfortunately, it was too great to overcome, and the business eventually shut down.
Okay. If I would ask you about the biggest aha moment in your life, would you please share with us a little bit?
Wow. Aha moment. Yeah, probably the biggest one, which I don't talk about this too often, is my wife and I went to Italy back when our daughter was a baby. It was 2004. And her family all lives there, and her first cousins, aunts, and uncles. So really got to experience the Italian culture, which has been wonderful. And we've been back, several times since. And we were taking a tour, and her cousin lent us her car, both her cousin and her husband. And they said, whatever you do, please stop by and see Assisi, because Assisi is a very special place. Mm-hmm. And so we did. We stopped by Assisi, and we loved it. It was a small medieval town on a hilltop, and there was something very magical about it. I it's hard to put into words, but it just didn't seem real, like that this city could still exist, over, thousands of years, and it's still vibrant and put together and, beautiful and hilly and I just had an amazing experience there, where for some reason something was drawing me to Saint Francis of Assisi and connecting with him and his story. So over many, many years, this was kind of the aha moment, but over a long period of time, now it's been 14 years since then. To write a book. So about 10 years ago, I started working on a novel, and it's nearing completion now.
Huh.
It all came out of this experience of this aha moment that I had, and more to come on this, but the book will hopefully be out, within a year or so.
Great. Roger, the best and the quickest way, at least I think so, to connect with people is to share and to talk about your values and of course to act on your values. Would you share with us what are your top values in life?
Respect,
Respect,
um, dignity,
dignity.
um, treating people equally. I think that's key. Is again, I'm out there. I'm out there a lot in the business world, and I just see, the the biases against women and against different races, and it really bothers me. I just don't like the fact that here we are in 2018 and people still look at skin color. That really bothers me. So I think, again, it just comes down to being transparent. And one of my core values is transparency. Just sharing myself, and sharing what's inside, because I think if you do that, and if you are willing to become vulnerable in some ways in that transparency where people could actually see inside of you,
Yeah.
then that shines through. And then other people may feel like, okay, maybe it's okay for me to do this too.
Yeah.
And let your guard down, let your ego down a little bit to become more open to others. And so, yeah, I think, those are some of my core values. Faith is very important to me. And, not that you have to preach but just, again, leading by example and treating people equally, do unto others. I think that goes a long way in life, no matter what business you're in, no matter, if it's business or family or community, just going back to those same basic golden rules.
Yes, that's true. And if I would ask you about your plans for the next 5 years in business and personal, it's very interesting, I think, for our listeners and for us to hear.
Yeah, well, we'll take personal first. So personal, look, I'm trying to grow every day, to become a better person every day. And we have that opportunity. If we set those goals for ourselves, that today I'm better than yesterday and tomorrow I'm going to be better than today, when we take those small steps, I feel they're achievable. Instead of saying, next Monday I'm going to start, quit smoking, or I'm going to become, a great person. No, it's to me, it's steady, growth at becoming a better person. So I want to become a better husband. I want to become a better father, a better friend, a better colleague, and just, that's my personal goal, just to, because if you can become better yourself, then naturally that'll help others become, maybe follow along or participate with you.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to go the other way where you're trying to dictate or, pontificate, to me, that doesn't work. Now, business-wise, that's fun. That's fun. Not that personal isn't fun, but big plans. The American Real, I think, has an opportunity to become a global empire as far as putting out very positive, enriching content to the world every single day. And the way I want to do that is not alone. The way I want to do that is through others, is by sharing their stories, is by getting, now we have 100 or so people in our live tribe. I want that to be 1,000, and then 10,000, and then 100,000, and then 1 million. So the plans are big because I think the world needs it. I think the world is ready for something like this, and I'm ready to take on the task. So it'll be through expanding our live tribe, and expanding that into businesses and expanding that into other people taking on these groups and doing it within their own network, just expanding the idea. And whether it's part of American Real or not, that's not the point. The point is to open people up to this form of communication of doing live video, because I think it's very, very powerful for the individual personally and for the others watching. We have plans to do documentaries. We're working on our first documentary now. Eventually I want to do 3 to 5 documentaries a year, because again, I think that content is important to share to the world and share stories of specific individuals that can make big impacts, as Brian Rose is doing at London Real, taking his lead. And again, growing our core platform, which is our weekly show. We already have an extension of that, and that is to do exactly what we're doing now. We're going to have an online platform where on Wednesdays we'll release our remote episode, and that'll open us up to be able to interview people all over the world, which we have a hard time at this point, maybe getting them to our studio. So that'll be a natural extension. And, getting more high profile guests on the show. Again, not to put people on a pedestal, but if we're able to get someone like a Jay Shetty, or a Tim Tebow, or some of these people that we're currently looking to bring on the show, then that'll only help grow our profile and business.
Yeah, that's great. I can tell for sure it's your passion. I see sparkles in your eyes. Yes. And could you please tell us how it really feels like to be yourself?
Well, look, I think like I said, I could not have done this 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I think you have to be ready at a certain point. And I think people are at different stages of their life ready for certain things. So you look at, say, a young actor or actress that makes it big. Some of them are ready, some of them are not. Some of them can handle it, others cannot. Some of the young athletes, some can handle it, some, so it's no different with celebrities, with any level of profession. So I just think that I'm ready for it now. So to be me is to be me. I'm not trying to do anything different or be someone that I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just, living the moment, embracing it, trying to remain humble. But at the same time, you have to be aggressive in this business. You have to be really aggressive. So there is a fine line of being aggressive, promoting yourself, but without the ego.
Yeah.
So, again, it sounds simple, but I'm just trying to stay in check and remain the person that I am with the values that I was raised with, and, pass that on to others, and hopefully they'll become a part of this big family that we're creating.
That's great. And is there anything we didn't ask you about, but you would like to talk about?
Well, you asked a lot of great questions, and we covered a lot of territory. I just, I think the biggest thing in my life right now is and it came out of nowhere, is doing these live videos. So as simple or as crazy as it sounds, and I know there's people out there watching saying, what is this guy doing? But Marie, because you're experiencing it.
Yeah.
It's changing my life because I'm doing it every day. I'm hearing from others that it's, and not necessarily changing our life in such a profound way that we're, transforming into different people, but slowly we're becoming more present, and therefore look at things a little bit differently. So to be honest with you, I don't think I could have talked to you today as transparent as I'm being if I didn't do this live video challenge. So it's helping me become a better person. So I'm so excited about it that I want more and more people to try it, because I know it'll make an impact on their life.
Yes, I agree with you. And I can feel like I'm changing too. And
Right.
Nowadays I think more how I can contribute, because first I was thinking how to show myself, what to say, how others will see me from the other side. And now it's more about the contribution. What should I provide to help.
Absolutely. And I think that's
Great.
a natural progression of what every single person in the group is going through. I know the first few days that I did it, I was thinking about it for 10, 15 minutes. Okay, what am I going to talk about? I would take notes and I would write them down on a sticky, and and it was more about preaching than actually giving or just speaking. So quickly you realize after a week or so that, wait a minute, this is not why I should be doing this. But it's a natural, you almost have to go through
Yes.
that to figure it out, and then to your point, at a certain point it clicks, and you say, okay, how can I contribute, where either I'm just sharing something that's happening to me today, or a situation that might have happened, or something that I'm just thinking about that may contribute to the group, where people can benefit from, or you just benefit yourself from speaking it.
Yes, that's true. And thank you very much for you to organize this group, and that's really a very nice experience, great experience.
Well, thank you. And I do have to give credit to Gav Carlos, who was really the inventor of this. He practiced this for 9 months on his own and saw the benefits himself. I entered his group and saw immediate benefit, and then realized that, it's something that I really wanted to adopt for American Real and the people that interact with us, because this is a way to give people an opportunity to find their voice, and then after they find their voice, share their story. So we're going to take this to a whole new level, where people will be able to become really comfortable with talking on camera, because most of us are uncomfortable. It's not easy to do. And then once they're comfortable doing that, be able to do it not only within a closed, secure group, but then taking that out either onto their private or public Facebook page, or on YouTube, or whether they give a speech at the Chamber of Commerce or at the Rotary Club or whatever it may be, they will transform and become, I think, more authentic in their own right. And there's people that are really good at it today. Like, we have people in the group that are great speakers. They speak all the time, but even they said it's changed them, because you can't, it's like a law of life. You can't avoid, when you go through these cycles, you can't avoid finding yourself. And that's what's happening. People are finding themselves in this process.
Yes, it's amazing. Thank you very much for such a wonderful interview today. It was a very nice and great experience for us, and I'm more than sure for our listeners too. And we look forward to seeing you here and hearing you here again sometime.
Thank you for coming on, Roger. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Yeah.